Fromacloud, an e-zine that provides a platform for candid discussion and artistic representation of ideas. Visit Fromacloud to read interesting profiles, view creative imagery, watch video, or listen to podcasts at fromacloud.us.
Well, so basically, I was an activist for HIV and AIDS. 2007. Yes, I think, no, 2007. 2005, I think, or 6. And that was, came from losing a lot of people on HIV, mostly my family members. And the big problem was that they didn't want to tell anyone because it was shameful. And I think that's most of the problems. Not necessarily education, but if people would actually look at it and not look at it as if I talk to you like HIV, or if I hug you like HIV, if I tell you it's a shameful thing, then maybe people would talk about it more, and that could help the spreading of it from partner to partner if we talk about it. So I think my family, a lot of members of my family that passed did hide because they were afraid of being cast away and things like that. And so I dedicated that trip for stigma. And it was followed by my brother who was sick and hiding, sick with HIV and was hiding. And so I had to go look for him and deal with all that and trying to prove to a lot of people that it's okay. My family passed and I'm not discriminating. So basically what I did was going around on hospice and trying to talk to people that are sick and hiding and trying to get them out, just to see if the society will allow a person to say I have HIV and not make it shameful for them. Well, because the whole point was to hide. And I'm trying to
bring them out.
What I was doing was showing that if my sister didn't hide, I would never treat them like the way their family is treating them. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to show them that if we can just give our families a chance, to give them the time to freak out, the time to react, and then the time to mourn with you, or whatever it is that you need. But we need to give them a chance. And some of them just hide because they know what's going to happen. So that was, because I was living that feeling of if my sister would have told me they were sick, how it would have helped. So I was just trying to do that with somebody else and see if a family member would accept them for being sick. Kind of for like 2 hours straight, we were just sitting there going, oh my God. People just walking by going, no way, no way, no way. And then just one person just looked at me and was like, so you're sure you're not sick? And I was like, I'm sure I'm not. Wow. And she's like, if I come in there and catch AIDS, you're going to pay or something like that. And I was like, you're going to be fine. And she came in and gave a woman a hug. And that woman kind of cried and just like couldn't believe that just happened. And all of a sudden, just a bunch of people started doing that. And it was just one of those moments where I didn't know it because I was afraid I was going to embarrass people who didn't want to come out in the first place, So from that, I decided I wanted to open an orphanage because on my trips I was visiting adults, and then I found children from the adults, and I didn't prepare myself for that. And they would tell me how there's a big problem for that because all the parents that are dying, they leave the kids and nobody wants them because of the whole stigma problem. So I said I was going to open something to help out. Medical-wise, counseling, which was really a big deal, and nutrition, which poor nutrition and not having the right kind of medication that goes with what your city count and what your situation is now. So I wanted to do something like a big center that has a little bit of everything, just people can come and get that. And when we got here, it didn't really go that way. We ended up, because it's a big deal. I ended up being pregnant with my second child, and we just had too much on our plate, and we had an extra land that we were gifted by my from my father when we got married. So we decided to give that land to the community. So the whole thing just went from the hospital to a completely different project. It was just too big of a project to happen right away. We're still planning on doing it.
Well, originally we were going to do it in Arusha.
In Arusha, yeah.
And then we decided, let's take that land that we were gifted and buy more land. So we threw a charity dinner and raised like $5,000. So we took all that money, bought more land. AWB, Architects Without Borders, designed a whole beautiful center. And Seka went there and presented it to the community, and it didn't go over very well.
Why?
You know, I think, well, I mean, there's a few things that happen. Her father kind of took it upon himself to iterate what we were doing to the community and kind of tried to take credit for it. Well, not kind of, he tried to take credit for it. And presented it in a way that was nothing like what we wanted to do. That, I think, mixed with an already existing stigma of, like, you know, churches and people that come in and help communities, and then, like, the project dries up, the funding dries up, and then it's just like, we didn't teach you how to fish, we just came in and did everything for you, and now we can't be here anymore, so there's this school that now has no funding or whatnot. So our whole vision has been, like, the teach to fish mentality, like, all the way from construction, you know, hiring locals to do all the building, staffing locals, you know, creating jobs in the community, in addition to creating a school and a community center, and then doing something that's like partially off the grid and ecologically conscious, so that we can be teaching about different ways to use energy than, you know, the whole movement that's happening in America, that underground movement of ecologically conscious, you know, green energy. I mean, Mama C can probably attest that it's improving a lot since we've been there.
And the roads.
The roads.
And even people's, the stigma of AIDS, and you should take some credit for that too, that you might plant the seed in somebody's mind. The stigma of AIDS is really lessening. You know, it really,
that
really
was
is.
the plan, that I get to do that more and just get more people. But it never went back, because it's a lot. I have a family, to get a family all over there and do that, and everything out of your own pocket's a lot.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We bid out, like, our vision is grand and beautiful, and it's a long vision. So we kind of retreated it a little bit after this, so we're trying to sell that land, so we can eventually buy land in Arusha, which is where we would like to do something, but right now we're doing more like, I guess, kind of philanthropy-esque work, like raising money through music and through benefits like the one you guys came to, and then helping existing on-the-ground foundations like the UAACC. I'll give the short story, I guess. Okay, so she was married to an American man, and then they separated. They weren't together anymore, but she ended up becoming really close with his cousin. His cousin lived in Seattle, and she was having a baby. And she came up here for the baby shower. Cousin's a friend of mine. Cousin brought her to a barbecue at my house, and it was all. But can I continue on that a little bit?
Sure.
So she was living in San Diego. Went back to San Diego the next day, and we kept in touch a little bit. And she was moving to Florida and then planning on going back to Africa, I believe. And she moved to Florida, found out she had severe tuberculosis from being at one of her sisters who passed, being at her bedside with her. So she contacted TB, was put in quarantine for about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
That's when we really fell in love, because we were on the phone. Like she had contacted me in Seattle. We had, you know, taken it pretty quick in one night, to put it PG style. And so she had contacted me and said I should get checked for TB. So I got checked and I was fine. But then time passed. I didn't really know much about TB and know that she would be in quarantine or any of that stuff. And then I was playing a gig at Nectar one night, like several months later. And I was just thinking about her a lot, and I was like, I gotta find her number and just call her. So I found her number, brought it to my gig, and I'm like, okay, on my set break, I'm gonna call her up and just see what she's up to. So I called her up. Turns out at that moment she was in bed, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't get water or anything, and had nobody, because she moved to Florida alone and then went right into quarantine in her own apartment, so was pretty much just living by herself and had nobody to help her. And said at that moment she was just like asking for somebody, you know, and that's when the phone rang, which, you know, on my end, I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea she was in quarantine or anything. But then that developed into, we just started talking every day. And then we started talking about having babies and everything on the phone, and just it grew and grew and grew on the phone and got really deep. And then she moved here the day after Thanksgiving of 2004. 2004. And we found out January 5th that we were 5 weeks pregnant.
I still want to do what I wanted to do, but medical-wise, I wanted to have like a center that have medical and things like that, but I can't have medical center until I know something about medicine. I wanted to go for nursing. That was what I wanted to do, 13 years ago when I came here. Is wanted to do medicine. I don't feel comfortable having a center that's I have medicine and all these things, not knowing anything about it. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. And so we're gonna skip that. But I still want to do the nutrition, and I hope, you know, things have developed where people actually understand they need to eat according to their CD4 count or their immune system, and then take medication according to what their status are, you know. So that I still want to do that, but most importantly, I want to do counseling for the kids. So I want to offer something like that on the center. Whatever it's going to be, you know, music is a big part of Chad's vision into that. So we're just trying to help youth rise up. We're just trying to do something for youth back home.
And what does Chad Red Dawn of Light? What is
Redlight of Dawn.
Red Light? Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's man, it's just some old hippie stuff.
No, I love old hippie stuff. I'm an old hippie, I think.
You know, I think it was. I'm trying to remember what year that name was acquired. Kind of self-proclaimed. You know, back in probably like '93. I was living in South Florida. And just it just came to me, like it was just in an era, and to me what it meant was like every day's a new day, you know. And I just wanted to, like, I was really into like native culture at that time, so I really wanted to like have, like, kind of give myself a name, which I think is kind of the opposite of how it actually happens. You don't usually give yourself a name, but I did, and here I am. It's stuck for years, you know.
It's a great name.
And that's kind of where Juele Kundu was inspired from, was that, because Juele Kundu is red sun in Kiswahili.
Okay.
So our idea with that was like, well, let's like take, like that whole thing is like, you know, the red being the urgency and the sun being like the life force.
Yeah.
You know, so like the urgency of life force, and then also the rebirthing that the sun brings, like every day. Every time the sun rises, like another opportunity.
See, just thought that I explained this in a hippie way.
Well, if someone wants to contact you all to contribute, to help you with your vision, how should they do that?
Through juelekundu.org is the best way to do it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with Fromacloud. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.